The orbital defense platform Helios hung silently above Neptune's azure sphere, its sensors scanning the depths of space. Captain Marcus Thorne stood at the observation deck, his weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass as he watched the latest refugee ships limp into the safety of Sol's inner sanctum. The Nexari surprise attacks had left 12 outer colony worlds in ruins, their populations scattered like cosmic dust across the void. "Status report," Thorne commanded, his deep voice carrying the weight of 3 decades in Earth's strategic defense force. Lieutenant Raj Patel's fingers danced across his holographic interface. 17 more ships inbound from Proxima Centauri, sir, mostly civilians, the colony. His voice cracked slightly. The colony is gone, just like the others. Thorne's jaw tightened. 6 months ago, the Nexari had appeared in human space with promises of technological exchange and cultural cooperation. Their ambassador, High Speaker Velatrix, had stood before the United Earth Council, preaching harmony between species. Humanity had embraced them, shared their world's open trade routes. Now those same trade routes ran red with human blood. "Play the last transmission from New Eden again," Thorne ordered, though he'd memorized every word. The holographic display flickered to life, showing Governor Diane Joe's face streaked with ash and terror. "They're breaking through the inner defenses, the peace protocols. They used our own safety measures against us. They knew exactly where to strike. All colonies, this is a priority black warning. The Nexari fleet is..." The transmission ended in static. Thorne turned to his tactical officer, Commander James O'Neill, whose Irish accent had grown thicker with stress. "How many dead?" "Latest estimates put it at 16 million civilians across all attacked colonies, sir. The Nexari targeted infrastructure first: hospitals, schools, power plants. They knew exactly where to hit us hardest." In the corner of the command center, Dr. Rashid Kumar, the station's chief xenologist, spoke up. "Captain, I've completed my analysis of the Nexari attack pattern. It's methodical. They're not just attacking randomly. They're systematically dismantling our outer defense network while maintaining their facade of diplomatic relations with Earth's central government." Thorne walked to the central tactical display, studying the red markers that indicated fallen colonies. "They think they're being clever," he said quietly. "They believe they're dealing with a young, naive species that hasn't learned to bare its teeth." The command center fell silent as a new alert flashed across their screens. A Nexari diplomatic vessel was requesting permission to dock with Helios. Ambassador Velatrix himself wanted to discuss the unfortunate incidents in the outer colonies. "Sir," Lieutenant Patel's voice was tight with controlled rage, "shall I deny their request?" Thorne stood straight, his 6'4" frame casting a long shadow across the tactical display. "No, let them come. It's time they learned something about humanity." He turned to his crew, his eyes hard as steel. "Initiate Protocol 0 Dawn, authorization Thorne Alpha 790. Throughout the station, hidden systems began to wake. Weapons platforms that had remained dormant since humanity's last great war hummed to life. Quantum computers that had been disguised as simple navigational aids began running combat simulations. The Helios wasn't just a defense platform, it was one of humanity's best-kept secrets, a wolf in sheep's clothing. As the Nexari ship approached, Dr. Kumar studied his readings with growing concern. "Captain, they're bringing enough firepower to level a small continent. Their weapon systems are active behind their diplomatic shields." "Of course they are," Thorne replied calmly. "They're here to destroy Helios after their peaceful negotiations fail, just like they did with New Eden." He opened a channel to Earth Command, knowing this would be the last time they could communicate freely. "This is Captain Marcus Thorne. The Nexari have shown their true intentions, requesting implementation of the Lazarus Protocol." The response came immediately. "Confirmed, Captain. The gloves come off. Show them why humanity spent the last 3 centuries trying to be peaceful." As the Nexari ship docked, Thorne gathered his senior staff. "Remember," he said quietly, "we're no longer bound by the peace accords. When they make their move, we show them exactly what humanity is capable of. We show them why our ancestors feared their own potential so much that they locked away their most devastating weapons and tried to build a better world." The station's internal sensors tracked Ambassador Velatrix and his delegation as they moved through the corridors, their hidden weapons detected and analyzed by systems they didn't know existed. In the command center, Thorne and his crew waited, their facade of diplomatic hospitality masking centuries of carefully contained military prowess. The time for playing nice was over. Humanity had tried peace, had extended their hand in friendship, only to have it slapped away with the blood of millions. Now, as the Nexari prepared to spring their trap, they would learn why humans had spent so long trying to be better than their nature. Because when humans stopped trying to be civilized, worlds burned. The meeting chamber on Helios Station fell silent as Ambassador Velatrix's true intentions became clear. The Nexari delegation had dropped their diplomatic pretense, energy weapons materializing from beneath their ceremonial robes. What they didn't expect was Captain Thorn's smile. "You seem amused, human," Velatrix's translator conveyed, his crystalline eyes narrowing at Thorn's apparent calm. "Your station is surrounded, your weapons are outdated, and your people are scattered." Thorn glanced at his wrist display, watching the countdown reach 0. "Tell me, Ambassador, in all your species' research into humanity, did you ever wonder why we maintained such primitive defensive capabilities? Why a species that achieved faster-than-light travel 2 centuries ago would rely on basic kinetic weapons and simple shields?" The station's lights dimmed momentarily, and hidden panels in the walls slid aside, revealing advanced weapon systems that had remained dormant for decades. Before the Nexari could react, quantum-lock stasis fields froze them in place. "Lieutenant Patel, send the signal," Thorn ordered. "Activate the Titan Protocol." Across the solar system, humanity's carefully maintained facade began to crumble. Beneath the surfaces of Mars and Europa, massive hangar doors opened for the first time in centuries. On Earth, deep-sea facilities that had been disguised as research stations revealed their true nature. The Sol system's defensive grid, which had appeared primitive to Nexari scans, underwent a metamorphosis. In Earth's secure command bunker, General Victoria Hammond watched as centuries of preparation came to fruition. "All Titan-class vessels, this is Earth Command. Authorization code, Prometheus Unchained. You are weapons-free. Show them what humanity has been hiding." The first Nexari ships to fall never saw what hit them. Quantum-phase torpedoes, technology the aliens thought impossible for humans to possess, passed through their strongest shields as if they didn't exist. Vessels that had been classified as cargo haulers revealed themselves to be carriers for swarms of AI-driven combat drones, each armed with weapons that could reduce a capital ship to atoms. Dr. Kumar's voice was steady as he reported from his station. "Captain, the Nexari fleet is attempting to regroup. Their communications indicate confusion. They're trying to understand how their intelligence could have been so wrong." Commander O'Neill's tactical display showed the unfolding battle. Their entire strategic approach was based on fighting the military they thought we had, not the one we actually built. The Lazarus Protocol is working perfectly. They have no defense against weapons they didn't know existed. In the meeting chamber, Thorn approached the stasis-locked Velatrix. "You know what your greatest mistake was? You assumed that because we chose peace we had forgotten war. You saw our attempts at diplomacy as weakness, our restraint as inability." He gestured to a holographic display showing the Nexari fleet's devastation. "We didn't maintain primitive weapons because we had to. We did it because we knew what we were capable of. We remembered the destruction we once caused, the civilizations we could burn." Through the quantum field, Velatrix's eyes widened as reports flooded in. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were revealing capabilities that should have been centuries beyond their reach. Ships appeared from seemingly empty space, using cloaking technology the Nexari had deemed theoretically impossible. Weapons fired that bent the laws of physics themselves. "The Titan-class dreadnoughts are reporting full deployment, sir," Patel announced. "The Nexari are attempting to retreat, but the quantum net is in place. They're trapped in system." Thorn nodded grimly. "They came expecting to find sheep. Instead, they woke the wolves we spent centuries trying to leash." He opened a channel to all human forces. "This is Captain Thorn. Remember your training, remember what's at stake, but most importantly, remember New Eden. Today, we show the galaxy why humanity chose to be peaceful, not because we had to, but because we knew what would happen if we weren't." The battle that followed would be written into the history books of 1,000 worlds. The Nexari, a species that had prided itself on military supremacy, found themselves facing an enemy that had hidden its true strength for centuries. Every strategy they attempted was countered by technologies they hadn't known existed. Every retreat was cut off by defenses that seemed to defy their understanding of physics. From his command center, Thorn watched as humanity's full military might was unveiled for the first time since the Great Wars of Earth. The Titan-class vessels, each carrying enough firepower to reshape continents, moved with terrible purpose. Their crews, trained in secret for generations, executed maneuvers that the Nexari had thought impossible for human reflexes. "Sir," O'Neill reported, "the Nexari command ship is sending a general broadcast. They're begging for mercy." Thorne's expression remained stone cold. Replay the distress calls from New Eden. Let them hear the voices of the civilians they slaughtered. Let them understand exactly why we kept these weapons locked away. Because we remembered what we were capable of. We remembered the monsters we could become. As the Nexari fleet crumbled before humanity's unleashed might, a message spread across the galaxy. It wasn't transmitted by human ships or carried by standard communications. It rippled through the quantum fabric of space itself, a testament to technology that humanity had hidden away. The message was simple: we tried peace, we chose restraint, remember what made us change our minds. Deep within the flagship Prometheus, General Hammond surveyed the tactical display as reports streamed in from across human space. The Nexari weren't just losing, they were experiencing total strategic collapse. Their entire military doctrine, built on the assumption of human technological inferiority, had shattered like glass against steel. Forward elements of the Titan fleet have secured the Proxima Centauri system, Colonel Julian Reeves reported, his dark features illuminated by holographic displays. The Nexari are abandoning their colonial holdings. They're burning their own data centers as they retreat. Hammond's emerald eyes narrowed. They're trying to hide evidence of their other operations, deploy the quantum hunters. I want every piece of Nexari intelligence preserved and analyzed. Across the battlefield of space, humanity's true military doctrine unfolded. The Titan-class vessels weren't just warships. They were mobile command centers for swarms of autonomous AI platforms that had been perfected over centuries of secret development. Each drone carried within it not just weapons, but psychological warfare systems designed to exploit alien neural patterns. On the bridge of the Helios, Captain Thorne received the latest intelligence from Dr. Kumar. The Nexari hierarchy is fracturing, the xenologist explained. Their military commanders are turning against their political leaders. Our psychometric warfare is working better than anticipated. Of course it is, Thorne replied, watching as another Nexari battle group attempted to make a stand against the advancing human forces. We spent centuries studying them while they thought they were studying us. Every piece of technology they shared, every cultural exchange, every diplomatic meeting, we were learning their weaknesses. The battle unfolding before them demonstrated this truth with terrible clarity. Human ships moved in patterns that seemed chaotic to Nexari tactical computers, but followed complex algorithms developed specifically to exploit their targeting systems. Electronic warfare suites that had been disguised as primitive communication arrays now reached into Nexari networks, turning their own defense systems against them. Lieutenant Patel's voice carried a note of grim satisfaction as he reported, "Sir, the quantum hunters have breached their primary data networks. We're getting everything: military installations, hidden bases, civilian populations." He paused, his expression darkening. "Captain, we've found evidence of other species they've conquered, dozens of them, all destroyed after being deceived by the same false diplomacy they tried with us." Thorne's face hardened. "Send everything to General Hammond. Humanity won't just be fighting for ourselves anymore." He opened a channel to the fleet. "All vessels, this is Captain Thorne. We've confirmed that the Nexari have been systematically destroying peaceful civilizations across this sector of space. Today, we not only avenge our own dead but stand as defenders for those who can no longer defend themselves." The response was immediate. Throughout the fleet, crews who had trained their entire lives for this moment channeled their controlled fury into precise, devastating action. The Titan vessels began deploying their most fearsome weapons, not just tools of destruction, but instruments of liberation. From her command center, General Hammond initiated the next phase. Begin Operation Memory's Wake. Show them what it means to face a species that spent millennia perfecting the art of war before choosing peace. The Nexari homeworld's orbital defense grid detected the human fleet's approach too late. Quantum-shifted vessels appeared within their inner defense perimeter, bypassing barriers that had been considered impenetrable. But instead of the expected bombardment, the human ships broadcast images, recordings of every atrocity the Nexari had committed, displayed on massive holographic screens visible from the planet's surface. "Let them see," Hammond commanded. "Let their civilians witness what their leaders have done. Let them understand why we came." The psychological impact was devastating. The Nexari, who had built their society on the belief of their cultural and technological superiority, watched as their carefully constructed lies crumbled. Their own people, seeing the truth of their leaders' actions, began to revolt. Commander O'Neill's voice carried over the tactical channel from Helios. "General, we're detecting massive civil unrest on their colony worlds. Their military forces are fragmenting, some are standing down, others are trying to maintain control. Dr. Kumar added his analysis. Their social structure is collapsing. They never conceived that their victims would not only fight back but would do so with such overwhelming technological superiority. The cognitive dissonance is destroying their cultural cohesion. In the void of space, humanity's Titan fleet moved with inexorable purpose. Ships that had hidden their true nature for centuries now displayed the full extent of their capabilities. Weapons that bent space itself, defensive systems that had been theoretical to even the Nexari, and technology that seemed to defy the known laws of physics, all brought to bear with the precision of a species that had spent centuries preparing for this moment. Send the final message, Hammond ordered. The transmission went out, broadcast in every Nexari language and dialect. You thought you were the hunters, but you never understood what you were hunting. Humanity chose peace not from weakness, but because we remembered what we became when we embraced war. You forced us to remember. You made us break our own chains. Now face the consequences of awakening what we spent centuries trying to contain. As the message echoed across Nexari space, their civilization faced a terrible truth. They had not discovered a young, naive species ripe for conquest. They had roused an ancient giant that had chosen sleep, a warrior that had chosen peace, a force that had contained itself out of wisdom rather than weakness. And now that force was fully awake. Supreme Commander Karax of the Nexari Defense Force stood in the ruins of his central command, watching holographic displays show the systematic dismantling of his civilization's military might. Each red dot representing a fallen Nexari stronghold felt like a physical blow to his pride. The humans weren't just winning, they were rewriting the very definition of warfare. Impossible, he whispered, his crystalline eyes reflecting the chaos of tactical displays. Our intelligence said they were centuries behind us. Their weapons were primitive, their shields were basic. How could we have been so wrong? General Hammond's face appeared on the central screen, her expression carved from stone. You weren't wrong, Supreme Commander. Everything you knew about us was true, because that's what we wanted you to know. Every piece of technology we showed you, every military capability we demonstrated, was carefully chosen to create the illusion of vulnerability. On the Prometheus, Hammond watched the Nexari leader's composure crack. Behind her, Colonel Reeves coordinated the deployment of humanity's most devastating weapons yet, the Lazarus arrays. These massive structures, hidden in deep space for centuries, began to activate, creating a web of quantum fields that would forever change the balance of power in the galaxy. The Archimedes Protocol is ready, General, Reeves reported. The arrays are at full power. We can proceed with the demonstration. Hammond nodded grimly. Show them what happens when humanity stops pretending. Across Nexari space, the arrays hummed to life. In an instant, every piece of Nexari military technology above a certain complexity simply stopped working. Ships hung dead in space, weapon systems fell silent, and defense grids flickered into darkness. The technological superiority they had relied upon for centuries vanished in the blink of an eye. Dr. Kumar's voice came through from the Helios, where he and Captain Thorne were monitoring the effects. The quantum suppression field is working perfectly. Their entire technological infrastructure was based on principles we discovered and learned to counter centuries ago. Karax watched in horror as his civilization's defenses crumbled. How could you have hidden such power, such knowledge? Because we remembered, Thorne replied, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's long preparation. We remembered what we were capable of during our own wars. We remembered the civilizations we could burn, the worlds we could break, so we chose to be better. We locked away our most terrible weapons, hid our true capabilities, and tried to build a peaceful future. Lieutenant Patel's sensors detected massive energy signatures as the Titan fleet moved into final attack position. Sir, the Nexari civilian government is broadcasting a general surrender. Their military hardliners are attempting to maintain control, but they're fighting with sticks against a force that can reshape reality, O'Neill finished. The quantum hunters have finished their data extraction. We now have proof of 27 other species the Nexari destroyed. 27 civilizations that chose peace and paid for it with their existence. Through quantum-encrypted channels, evidence of the Nexari's atrocities spread across their empire. Civilian populations, long fed propaganda about their military's righteous expansion, learned the truth about the genocides committed in their name. The social order that had sustained their empire for millennia began to collapse under the weight of revealed truth. On his flagship's bridge, Karax received reports of mass surrenders of entire fleets standing down, of colony worlds declaring independence. "You've destroyed us," he said, his voice hollow. "Not with weapons, but with truth." "No," Hammond replied. "You destroyed yourselves the moment you mistook kindness for weakness, when you saw our attempts at peace as an opportunity for conquest." She paused, letting the weight of history settle between them. "Humanity didn't become peaceful because we couldn't fight. We chose peace because we knew exactly what we could do in war." The Lazarus arrays continued their work, systematically dismantling the technological advantage the Nexari had relied upon for so long. But humanity didn't stop there. From the depths of their hidden arsenals came weapons that the Nexari had thought impossible, devices that could redirect the flow of time itself, ships that could phase through solid matter, and defense systems that seemed to violate the fundamental laws of physics. "Do you understand now?" Thorne asked, addressing not just Karax but all those watching across Nexari space. "Every time you attacked a human colony, every civilian you killed, you weren't fighting against our strongest weapons. You were fighting against our restraint." The final phase of humanity's response took form as the Titan fleet surrounded the Nexari homeworld. But instead of the expected bombardment, they began deploying massive architectural structures, the frameworks of a new civilization. "You have a choice," Hammond announced to the Nexari people. "Your military leadership will face justice for their crimes against humanity and the other species they destroyed. But for your civilians, we offer something different. We offer the chance to learn why we chose peace, to understand what it means to have power and choose not to use it." Across the galaxy, other spacefaring races watched in stunned silence as humanity revealed its true nature. They had all dismissed Earth as a minor power, a young species still learning to crawl among the stars. Now they saw the truth: humanity hadn't been crawling. They had been holding themselves back, containing their own potential for destruction, choosing the harder path of peace until peace was no longer an option. As the Nexari Empire crumbled, a new order began to emerge. One built not on conquest and deception, but on the understanding that the most dangerous species in the galaxy weren't those who wielded their power openly, but those who had the wisdom to keep it leashed until truly needed. 3 months after humanity's overwhelming display of power, the galaxy had changed forever. The Great Hall of Earth's Unity complex in Geneva hummed with tension as representatives from 100 alien civilizations gathered for what would become known as the Tribunal of Dawn. General Hammond stood at the central podium, her uniform bearing the new insignia of the Terran Defense Force. Before her sat the captured Nexari leadership, including Supreme Commander Karax, while behind them were the representatives of the 27 civilizations. The Nexari had attempted to destroy species that humanity had managed to save through preserved genetic archives and advanced restoration technology. "Today," Hammond began, her voice carrying across the silent chamber, "we gather not to pass judgment, but to forge understanding. Humanity revealed its true nature not out of desire for dominance, but because we could no longer watch as another empire repeated our own ancient mistakes." Captain Thorne, now Fleet Admiral Thorne, stood at her side, while Dr. Kumar prepared the historical archives for display. The massive holographic displays activated, showing Earth's own violent history, centuries of warfare, destruction, and near-extinction events that had taught humanity the true cost of unchecked power. "For 3,000 years," Thorne addressed the assembly, "we fought ourselves. We nearly destroyed our own world dozens of times. When we finally reached the stars, we carried with us not just technology but wisdom bought with blood and fire. We chose to hide our true capabilities not out of fear but out of responsibility." Lieutenant Patel, promoted to commander after the war, activated the quantum arrays that allowed instantaneous translation across all known languages. The truth of humanity's journey needed to be understood by all. "The weapons we used against the Nexari," O'Neill, now a strategic director, explained. "They were developed centuries ago. The Titan fleets, built before we made first contact with any alien race. We advanced so far because we were running from our own potential for destruction." In the gallery, alien diplomats watched in stunned silence as humanity revealed the full scope of their technological achievements. The quantum hunters had not just been weapons of war, they were humanity's guardians, watching for any civilization that might follow the path of conquest that Earth had once walked. Dr. Kumar stepped forward, his expertise now focused on helping the restored species adapt to their new reality. "What you saw in the war wasn't humanity unleashed, it was humanity finally dropping a mask we had worn for centuries. Every peaceful treaty we signed, every technological exchange we engaged in, was done with the knowledge that we could have simply taken what we wanted. We chose a different path. The holographic displays showed new images, the reconstruction of the devastated Nexari worlds, not as conquered territories, but as partners in a new galactic order. The Lazarus arrays, once weapons of war, now served as the foundation of a defense network that would protect all peaceful civilizations. The Nexari's greatest mistake, Hammond continued, wasn't attacking us. It was failing to understand why a species capable of such devastating military power would choose to appear weak. They never asked themselves why we maintained primitive weapons when we could have dominated the galaxy. Karax, his one sprout bearing now humbled, spoke for the first time. We thought we were the most advanced civilization in known space. But you were so far beyond us that you could pretend to be primitive. Why maintain such a deception? Thorne's response carried the weight of humanity's long journey, because true strength isn't in the weapons you wield, it's in the wisdom to know when not to use them. Every species reaches a point where they must choose between power and progress. We chose progress, but we never forgot how to fight. The Assembly watched as humanity unveiled its final revelation, the Guardian Protocol. Massive space stations, hidden in dimensional pockets throughout the galaxy, emerged. These weren't weapons of war, but bastions of preservation, containing the combined knowledge, art, and cultural heritage of thousands of civilizations. This is humanity's true legacy, Hammond declared. Not the weapons that won the war, but the knowledge we preserved. Every species the Nexari thought they destroyed, we saved them. Every civilization they tried to erase, we protected their history, their culture, their essence, because we remembered what it meant to stand on the brink of self-destruction. As the tribunal proceeded, a new order took shape. The Terran Defense Force would stand not as conquerors, but as guardians. The advanced technology humanity had hidden would now serve to protect rather than destroy. The Quantum Hunters would ensure that no species would ever again threaten galactic peace without consequence. Let this be understood, Thorne addressed the Assembly one final time. Humanity didn't build weapons because we wanted war. We built them because we understood peace. We didn't hide our power out of shame, but out of hope that we would never need to use it again. But when that hope was shattered, when innocent lives were threatened, we remembered what we were capable of.